10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Freedom Friday, 2A News. Welcome back, guys. Glad you guys are here today. I'm happy to be here as well. It's been really damn busy. Anyway, today, Measure 114. What is Measure 114? Oh, that is the latest and greatest, our beautiful people that you elected to office have given us. Well, actually, they didn't give it to us. They gave it to the state of Oregon. And there are other states that they're going to be giving it to. Massachusetts, it's one that they gave it to already, which is basically the same thing, but they just coined it a little different. I got all this stuff, all the goodies here today. So, Measure 114 is the latest assault on our Second Amendment rights that the people, along with some government officials, have basically given us. Not us, not yet. But the state of Oregon. We're going to talk about Oregon today, only because I got a friend out there who's a great guy and stuff like that. And we had a little chit chat about Measure 114, and he's not happy about it. Let me tell you, he's kind of pissed. Rightfully so, right? Oh, anyway, little caveat moment here. I've been hard at work, guys. And I mean, it is Freedom Friday. This is like my space where I get to come in here and just chit chat with you guys freely, like in a live environment, but we're really not live. Not yet. That'll be coming soon. Where it's just like, hey, we're just going to talk 2A stuff and basically chit chat like if you guys were actually here, which I hope you are, but you know what I mean. But I've been working really, really hard over on my bench area in that room. And I'm going to give you a little sneak peek, and it's just going to be a little sneak peek. And then I'm going to jump right back because I'm going to be recording in there a little bit later after I'm done here. And I'm going to be doing a couple of review videos. Blah. Okay. And one of them is going to be for my buddy, Jamie, who's out in Oregon. Okay. So ready here, take a quick peek. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. Oh, isn't she a beaut? Look at that. That is fantastic. I love it. Anyhow, we're back. Okay, so today, let's just continue here. Measure 114. Let me tell you what that is. And I'm going to read it right off of my notes here that I have. And I got plenty of them today, like I usually do on Freedom Friday. So, ballot measure 114. By the way, FYI, this was voted on during the midterms, okay? And it was passed. It barely made it, but it did pass, and it will go into effect, I believe, on December 15th of this year. What does that mean? Well, it means that firearm sales are going through the roof, but, we're going to cover that. Anyway, here we go. Ballot measure 114 is an unconstitutional ban on ammo magazines with more than 10 rounds. Measure 114 will ban the use, possession, manufacturing, and transfer of ammunition magazines over 10 rounds. Use of a currently owned magazine will only be lawful on private property. I'm going to stop right there. Use of a currently owned magazine, meaning over with more than 10 rounds in it, will only be lawful on private property. In other words, in your home. At a shooting range, and while engaged in hunting. So, let's see. You can have it in your home, you can take it to a shooting range, and you can take it with you while you're going hunting. So, why would it be unlawful anywhere else? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Because they have sensitive areas that you are not permitted to take said magazines into. You know that term, sensitive areas? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the same garbage that the state of New York is imposing on the people there also as well. They have their own version of what Oregon has, which is Measure 114. In Massachusetts, they call it something else. In Illinois, Well, hell, they passed that. That's that purge law that I've spoken about in the previous video. Um, so you see where this is going, guys? This is starting to spread quickly throughout the republic. That's right. It is an assault on the Second Amendment. They're coming after it, man. I'm telling you. And they're doing it with what? Lawfare. And I talked about that in another video that I did. You guys need to get with the program here, man. Just saying. Hey, I'm feeling kind of good today. So it's just, it is what it is, right? Anyhow, let's continue here with this. When a magazine is transported off private property, the magazines must be removed from the firearm and stored separately. Okay. Therefore, a magazine over 10 rounds will not be available to exercise the right to self-defense outside of the home. Wow, you got to store it separately. What do? You shove it in your back pocket? Right? Stored separately. Or do you have to keep it in some sort of a case or something like that, with a combination or a padlock on it for you to take it out of your house, put it in your car? That's right. And then take it to the range or take it hunting and then unlock it again. This is just downright stupid. Okay, so that's the first bullet point on Measure 114. Let's go to the second one. Ballot Measure 114 would require government permission to exercise your Second Amendment constitutional rights. Measure 114 requires a permit to purchase or transfer a firearm. The permit must be issued by law enforcement. There is no exception for law enforcement or military purchase of firearms for personal use. A concealed handgun license does not qualify as a permit to purchase. That's 2. Wow. A hunter safety certification does not qualify as a permit to purchase. Permit must be renewed every 5 years for a fee. Of course, it's all about the money. Issuance of a permit requires completion of classroom and live fire training offered only by law enforcement certified instructors. So now the cops have to teach you how to shoot, and it has to be a certified law enforcement area. I thought they were pretty stretched enough as it is. So do they have the manpower, the hours, the capability, and the facilities to do this? I highly doubt it. There is no limit to the amount that can be charged for these classes. Here we go. Oh, boy. There is no limit to be charged for these classes. I am sorry. I'm shocking myself here. Anyway, facilities and ranges for classes are extremely limited. As I said, there you go. Noting nothing requires law enforcement agencies to actually offer the classes required to obtain the permit. So they don't have to do this if they don't want to. So far and this is only the second bullet point, we're going to go down to the third one now. So far from what I've read, this is extremely difficult for we the people to be able to legally carry a firearm or get one or be able to purchase one at that. All 3, right? You see, you're starting to realize what's going on here. They're making it virtually impossible for you to be compliant with their laws as far as you to be able to protect yourself. See where this is going? So therefore, they're going to make it basically impossible with Measure 114, where people are going to say, hey, I can't afford it, number 1. Number 2, I'm limited to where I can carry it. Number 3, I got to go through all of this rigmarole just to be able to be legally compliant. Why even bother? The hell with it. Exactly the point. That's the goal, right? They're not going to take them. They're just going to make it impossible for you to be able to acquire one. All right, third bullet point. Ballot Measure 114 would allow your personal information to be added to a government registry. And that is where the problem begins, a government registry. Gee, who else did that I recall? Oh, yes, that's right. Batista in Cuba. He had everybody register their firearms. And, when Castro came into power, hey, I remember that because I was there. That's when they said, that's when he told his henchmen, hey, pull the registrations. We know where they're at. All right, we got them. Great. I'll go and pick them up. Ask for a volunteering. In other words, like a buyback, but they didn't give us any money. They just forcefully bought them back. Or no, wait, you had to, they asked you for them. Yeah, that's right. They asked you for them because you'd be doing them a great favor by contributing your firearms that you don't no longer need because they're there to protect you from the enemy, which is going to attack us any day now. That's it. Same thing. Remember what I've always said. The language. The language will be slightly different, but at its foundation, at its core, it's always the same. Okay? It is always the same. Here we go. I'm just going to go over this again. Ballot Measure 114 would allow your personal information to be added to a government registry. Measure 114 requires law enforcement to maintain a registry of gun owners' personal information contained in the permit application, including applicant's legal name, current address and telephone number, date and place of birth, physical description, fingerprints, pictures, and any additional information determined necessary by law enforcement. This data will be published annually. It'll be published annually. We want blood type, blood samples, retinal scans, second-born, first-born, maybe if required. I'm kidding. I'm just being facetious, but you get it. There you have it. Measure 114. This goes into law December 15th. It is already passed, like I said earlier. So what's going on now? Well, what's going on now is that gun sales and magazine sales are now going through the roof in the state of Oregon. Record numbers, okay? Record numbers on sales. Because people want to go ahead and get it before the law kicks in on the 15th, rightfully so, because after that, it's going to be really, really tough. Okay. Now, what I have here currently right now is basically how this came to be. How did this happen? Right? Because some of you out there might be saying, well, gee, Armando, that sounds fantastic. Now we have an idea of what Measure 114 really is, and it sucks. Yes, it does. But how? How did this come to be? Well, basically, it's like 3 steps on how this came to be. Number 1, the indoctrination process. Number 2, somebody drank the Kool-Aid, and number 3, fear unfortunately into the young people because of the the situations that are happening in the schools and in malls and your parking lots and stuff like that where these mass shootings are occurring. This is why this came to be, right? Mainly fear. People are just like, hey man, we're scared to death. We need to put countermeasures into place to protect us from mass shootings and the spooky black rifles and and the assault weapons and all those terms that they coin all that crap to be. And that's what it is. It's just fear, right? And that's what's happening. Now, the problem with that is this is only applicable to law-abiding citizens, right? This does not apply to the criminal element. This does not apply to your gangbangers. This does not apply to the nut jobs out there that are going to do these horrific acts, right? They're criminals. They don't give a crap about the law. They don't care about what measure you can put into place. They don't care about anything. They're criminals. They're going to buy the guns. They're going to have access to it, fully automatic, semi-automatic, call it whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? And they're going to do their thing because they don't care about the law. They don't care about sensitive areas, right? They don't care about magazine capacities. They're going to have whatever it is that they want to have that can inflict as much harm as quickly as possible. It's not the weapon's fault. It's the ability to be able to get it, by these criminals. Okay. They're not addressing that. They're addressing the masses, the common use stuff, that we, the people, okay, legally attain them. Well, they're preventing us from, not, let me not say preventing us. Let me say making it more difficult to attain them. There you go. All right. To protect ourselves from said criminal elements. Okay. The ones that don't give a crap about the law, don't give a crap about you and me. It's okay for them. Right. And when you have uh, weak standards in law enforcement, right, with all this defunding the police stuff, soft on crime policies, when you have all these things, come into play, you're giving the advantage to the criminal element against you. Okay. That's a problem. So it's okay for you to have them in your home, which basically tells me I need to stay in my home and not go outside. Well, how could you survive that? Well, it's easy. It's easy today. You have the power of the internet and you have one of these. Okay. You have everything at your fingertips, right? Grubhub, Uber Eats, Uber, right? In case you actually do need to go outside the house for whatever the reason is. Hell, you got Amazon. You got all types of delivery services that can bring you whatever you want to your front doorstep and you never have to leave your home. Right? Get your permit. Have your stuff at home. Large capacity magazines, keep them at home. Everything be kept at home. They want you at home. You know what that is? That's control. Nothing more, nothing less. That's control. They want to keep you at home. Right? A big old training session that happened was the lockdowns. Keep everybody at home. Work from home. Do everything from home. Hell, don't go outside. It's not safe out there. We know that. So how did this come to pass? Oregon gun access measure narrowly passes, bringing joy and sadness at the same time. This is a piece that was written by OPB by Lillian Montague Hughes, okay, on November 11th at 4:29 p.m. This is now at the local level. Okay, this is not at mainstream. This is a local news report. Okay, provided by this reporter that I found. And I'm just going to go ahead and just read it because I don't even know if you can find this thing out there anymore. But here goes anyway. And this is basically, talking about a youngster and her reason, why she supported Measure 114. So let's go. All right. Now, for many on both sides, the newly approved rules by voters feel deeply personal and will change day-to-day life. Juniper Rook, 17, is too young to vote, but that didn't keep her from consistently refreshing the vote totals for Measure 114, which she campaigned for in the hopes that it would keep her and her classmates safe. When the lead of the Yes on Measure 114 campaign in Bend texted her to say it passed, she cried. This poor kid is scared out of her mind because of all the shootings, in the schools. And she is scared out of her mind for her family, her friends. I mean, just herself in general. So she supported this measure, right? Because the narrative was, to keep guns out of the hands of people so they don't commit these horrific crimes. I mean, I get that. Nobody wants that. I sympathize with that, actually. Nobody wants to have that in the back of their mind. Okay. But what happens when you do impose that, as they already have right here, and the criminal element still is going to commit those horrific acts, and now you're at a disadvantage because you can't personally protect yourself. You just can't do it. So what do? You stay home, right? You go to school from home. How does that work? Right? Because I mean, you're basically going outside your house now and, oh my God, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And what if something does happen? Do I run? Do I hide under a car? What do I do? Right? I mean, do I call law enforcement? Sure. The situation is going to happen in 3 seconds. They'll be there in 3 minutes if they even show up. Right? I don't know. Anyway, let's continue. Quote, it's just so surreal to know that Oregon is one of the states that's taking a first big step to creating a safer place for all people, Rook said. The high school student who lives in Redmond said she and many of her friends can feel anxious about going to school because shootings have become so common. She said she started advocating for stricter gun laws when 17 students were killed at Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. She was only 12. Quote, I feel like even adults who aren't parents kind of have this responsibility to keep kids my age safe, she said. And it really was not happening up until now. It was super disappointing. This week, though, she's proud of the grown-ups. Amazement, sadness, fear, relief, and renewed faith in humanity, and a dark feeling that things will keep getting worse. All of these reactions swept the state as it became clear this week that Measure 114 would pass by about 2 percentage points. 30 days after the vote is certified, the new laws require a permit to purchase a firearm and banning magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition will go into effect. The change will rocket Oregon from the middle of the pack to among the 10 states with the tightest gun regulations in the country. And for many on both sides, the coming changes feel deeply personal in a way that will change their daily life. Yeah, it's going to change your daily life extraordinarily. Now, there you have the one side of the why this thing was voted on, why this thing was passed. You have that one side. I'm going to give you a little bit now, continuing with this piece, from a law enforcement perspective, and then from the opposition's perspective. And in the end, you can draw your own conclusion as to how you feel about this. And do me a favor and leave comments down below. And let me know what your thoughts are, because as I said here, this is just 10 states. I said a while back ago that there are 17 states, okay, in the country right now that are adopting purge laws. They're adopting, Measure 114 type style of laws. Okay, like I said, New York, Massachusetts, they already have that stuff going in the works. Illinois got it going. Actually, that's going to go into law January 1st of 2023, the purge laws, all right? But they have this also as well. And this is just gaining traction. It's gaining speed, okay? And this is part of the plan. I've said it, the Second Amendment is the last thing that we have left. They already have everything else, okay? It's already a done deal. Okay. And now with the results of the midterms, okay, we have, well, the right took control of the House, right? Barely, but they did. But they don't have control of the Senate. Okay. It is what it is. Basically, that tells you that it's a lame duck situation. Some things may go, some things may not go. But here's the thing. No one's talking about stuff like this. No one is talking about it. This is only being talked about at the very local level. Okay. On the mainstream, good luck. Good luck finding it. I mean, it's just, and that's perfectly fine. That's part of the overall plan. Okay. How does that work? Hey, kids, watch this hand, right? Look, focus over here. Don't worry about what this one's doing. This one's operating over here somewhere, right? But you can't, there's nothing to see here, right? No, don't worry about this. Just look over here. Just look at this one, right? Let's focus on FTX. Let's focus on, crypto. Let's focus on all this other whatever garbage. Okay, let's just focus over here, but don't worry about what's here. It's okay, right? Nothing to see. That's how they're doing it in the dark of night, right? They're shoving all this stuff through, and people are voting on it. People are voting on it. Let's continue. Now, related to this, in Linn County Sheriff says that part of Oregon gun measure won't be enforced. Right? So Linn County Sheriff says part of Oregon's gun measure won't be enforced. They're not going to stand behind it. Let's get their perspective now. Paul Donhefner, the legislative committee chairman with the Oregon Hunters Association, who had advocated against Measure 114, was disappointed. What he wondered would his various hunting associations use for their fundraising raffles if they couldn't give rifles to people who may not have up-to-date purchase permits? Good question. Quote, it had a very appealing title, Reduction of Gun Violence Act, he said. If that's all you read before you voted, then you'd say yes. I mean, who's for gun violence? Nobody at all, right? Don Hefner, who lives in Marion County, takes gun safety seriously, but he thinks creating a permit system that requires a course in gun safety will be expensive and unwieldy. And he doesn't think it will do anything to cut down on the increased gun violence in Portland or to reduce mass shootings. Quote, it is going to put a lot of honest citizens through the ringer, he said. The people that are committing gun violence aren't going to get a permit to purchase. You're not going to get a background check. You're not going to go through all this rigmarole, like I said before. The honest citizen. Yeah, it's incredible. As might be expected, the measure passed overwhelmingly in Multnomah County. Correct me if I get this wrong. Let me try this again. Multnomah County. Wow. With 74% of the vote as of Thursday evening. It was much closer in Deschutes County, the mostly rural region anchored by Bend. Voters there were nearly 50-50 for and against, with just over 100,000 votes cast. The measure was defeated by about 1,000 votes. In rural, mountainous Wallowa County, the numbers were almost exactly reversed from Multnomah, with 73% of voters saying no thank you to tighter gun laws. More people there, let me continue here. More people there voted against stricter gun laws than voted for Republican candidate for governor Christine Drazan. At the time, the new rules were more popular to Wallowans than Democratic governor-elect Tina Kotek, who pulled about 100 fewer votes than Measure 114 did in the eastern Oregon county. Overall, the measure would have lost in 29 of Oregon's 36 counties, but the places where it won hold the bulk of the state's population. Again, caveat moment again. And I'm going to use, not that I'm talking negative about it or anything like that. I'm going to use Philadelphia as an example, okay, with the elections over in Pennsylvania. It tends that the more rural you get, in a state, the more pro Second Amendment people you have, and the more that you get into your cities, your bigger cities, right? Those areas, the more anti-gun people you have. And most of these larger cities are led by whom? The Democrats, the liberals, okay? Your anti-gunners, all right? Philadelphia, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, Portland. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, these are all blue-run cities, right? So anti-gunners, that's where the majority of your populace lives in the city because it's convenient, right? Closer to work, more of a corporate settings, all your large corporations are basically housed there. It's just the way it goes. Your bulk, your concentration of more crime and more homelessness are in these areas that are populated like that. So, of course, you're going to have the majority of your votes in these areas as opposed to being in the rural areas, right? So there you have it. It's crazy. Now, let's continue here, okay? Orion Mayer sorts ballots at the Multnomah County Elections Division in Portland, Oregon. November 8th, 2022, Multnomah County voters were overwhelmingly in favor of Measure 114, which will tighten gun laws in the states. See what I just said. Orion Meyer sorts ballots at the Multnomah County Elections Division in Portland. Portland, Oregon. I got to stop there for a second because Portland's a big town, big city. You guys remember Portland in 2020, especially over the summer, what occurred there, right? And there you have it, right? So overwhelmingly in Portland, they wanted Measure 114. They wanted it. And I understand that because, wow, hey, if you think about what happened in the summer of 2020, you're like, oh, well, what if it happens again? Right? We got to keep, firearms out of the hands of the bad people. Okay, I can agree with that, but the bad people don't obey the law. They're going to get them anyway. Okay. It's the law abiding citizen that's going to be affected. They can't get them because of things like this. Okay. So if you live in the bigger cities, maybe you should consider moving out to rural areas. I don't know, just my opinion, I guess. Right now. So this piece that OPB did, I mean, is a good one. Now, let's go on and we'll close out here. Now, regardless of how individual Oregonians voted, the rules laid out in Measure 114 will soon be law for all residents. It's December 15th. But exactly what happens next is slightly unclear. A spokesperson for the Oregon State Police, the agency tasked with creating the permit to purchase system and overseeing the new background checks, said they would not be able to provide specific information about the timeline for the rulemaking process. They will go through they will go through to work out the kinks until the election is certified by the state secretary. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to put all of these requirements and all of these conditions into play, right? So because this is new for them as well, right? They got to provide the training, they got to provide the facilities, they got to provide the permitting, the clerical work, the paperwork, the background checks. They got to provide all the logistics, right, to put 114 into play. And I think they're a bit overwhelmed, if you will, according to this piece. I don't know, just my thing. Now, this is just crazy. All right. Purchasing system overseas. Yeah. All right. Specifics, information about the timeline for the rulemaking process. Covered this already. Okay. Now, well, let's continue here. Lack of guidance from the state law enforcement agency hasn't prevented some county sheriffs like Michelle Duncan in Lynn County and Brad Lowry in Sherman County from saying they won't enforce the ban on high-capacity magazines. It's unclear exactly what that means, since sheriffs aren't legally allowed to contravene state law. That's a weird one right there, right? So basically they're saying that they're not going to stand behind this Measure 114, but, this is state law. So they're going to have to figure that piece out too, right? Now, some in the leftist community are less worried about sheriffs not enforcing the law than about them having too much power over who gets a permit. And that's just one detail of the law that has gun owners worried. Who gets the permits and who doesn't? Again, this just makes zero sense. For example, anyone who currently owns larger capacity magazines or guns that carry more bullets than are allowed to keep them under the new rules, but many worry they will have a hard time proving a purchase date. Interesting. A purchase date. So now you have to have a date of purchase. Well, obviously, because if this goes into effect on December 15th and you had it before, how do you prove I bought it before the law was enacted or I proved it afterwards? I mean, they don't stamp date of purchases on the magazines. Not yet. And they may soon be getting serial numbers too. Just my opinion. Quote, it is impossible to prove when you actually acquired a magazine, said Kevin Starrett, the leader of the No on Measure 114 campaign, in an August interview. Quote, the burden of proof is on you, the defendant. It's impossible to prove when you bought a magazine because they have no identifying marks on them. What did I just say? Others say it will be nearly impossible to meet demand for the newly required safety courses, which require live fire training. They worry that the financial burden on local law enforcement will be too high. They worry the state may ban all gun purchases while they figure out a new system. And how long is it going to take for them to figure out a new system? A week? 2 weeks? A month? 2 months? 6 months? A year? 2 years? Maybe they never will. Uh-oh. But for people who voted for the measure, it is an unalloyed good. Unbelievable. Quote, I have 3 kids in school. The impact of the countless lockdowns, both real and practical ones, has had lasting mental impact on them, wrote Matt Coleman, who works in tech sales and lives in Lake Oswego. Quote, we always wonder, is today where we get the call that there's a shooting in a school? For Coleman, the measure seems like a common sense way to regulate a deadly weapon. Quote, it doesn't take any guns away. It simply adds some measure of ensuring that most people follow a process, he wrote in a direct message on Twitter. Just like people steal cars, criminals will steal guns too. I just want to make it harder for them. Okay, okay, cool. You're not going to make it harder on them because they're going to get them anyway. I don't know how you're going to make it harder on them. They don't obey the law. They don't follow the rule of law. Okay, they don't care. They're going to get them regardless. Okay, either they steal them, like you said, like they steal cars. They steal them from people who don't keep them secured, or just get muscled over, or whatever. But they're going to get them. They are, because they don't care about the law. Michael Fuller, a Portland civil rights lawyer, had a different reason for voting yes. Quote, my preferred concealed carry weapon does not have more than 10 rounds in its magazine anyway. Okay. He wrote in a direct message on Twitter, quote, so I figured that passing 114 would make it less likely I would be outgunned if I were in a gunfight with an active shooter. Oh my God, I smell stupid here so much it's not even funny. So this is a guy that voted yes for 114, but he is a concealed carry permit holder, right? And his weapon does not have more than 10 rounds in its magazine anyway. 10 rounds. Because that seems to be the narrative. 10 rounds or less, right? Okay. He figures that by passing 114 would make it less likely I would be outgunned if I were in a gunfight with an active shooter. Outgunned. Less likely because you have 10 rounds. Okay, Mr. Ass Clown, let me ask you a question. Have you seen what the street gangs are carrying in Chicago? The Glocks with the feels good switch on the back, okay, which turns it into a fully automatic pistol, okay, with 33 round minimum magazines. Let's not forget about, the higher capacity drum magazines, right, that they're going to have, which can hold up to 100 basically. You think you feel outgunned a little bit now? Because that's what these guys are carrying. They're not going to carry 10 rounds or less, right? They're not. Why? That's a disadvantage. Criminals want an advantage on you. Okay? You're a moron. Fuller was among a small but vocal group of gun owners who came out in support of the measure, saying in different ways that they were willing to put up with additional hassles to purchase their guns if it meant saving lives. Let me think about this one for a second, right? So I prefer 2-ply toilet paper because it does a better job, right? Oh, sorry. It does a better job. But if I am not allowed to have 2-ply toilet paper, forget the aloe. No aloe. The aloe stuff makes you feel like you never finished the job to begin with anyway. Anyway, that's whatever. Um, we're going to go now with one ply. Yes, I'm not happy about it. Yes, it's more finger. Sorry, it's more difficult to use, if you will. It's more fragile. You know what I mean? One ply versus two ply, right? Uh, but if it means it takes me a little bit longer to finish the job, then yes, let's just go for it. Right? Let's just do it. Okay. My doggies are see, they got pissed off about the toilet paper deal too. Anyway, um, they're gonna be a little loud. Sorry. But you see, this makes no sense again. Let me repeat it because I'm having a hard time understanding this, right? So basically says here Fuller was among a small but vocal group of gun owners who came out in support of the measure, saying in different ways that they were willing to put up with additional hassles to purchase their guns if it meant saving lives. All right. While nothing is guaranteed, the available research indicates the new laws likely will save lives. While nothing is guaranteed, the additional indicates that the new laws will save lives. I doubt that. Magazine bans have been found to reduce the rate of fatal mass shootings, said Andrew Morrell, the head of RAND's National Collective on Gun Violence Research. And while it's difficult to isolate the effect of a single law, states with tighter gun regulations, including permits to purchase firearms, have lower gun homicide and suicide rates, Morrill said in an October interview. Waiting periods to buy a gun, which will be an effective result of Oregon's new law, are one of the laws clearly shown to reduce firearm deaths. Wow. The campaign to pass the measure went from a tiny effort based out of Portland church basement this spring to a professionally staffed and nationally funded effort. Nationally funded by whom? The effort. I smell Soros money there. Okay, never mind. In the days and weeks after the May shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde, a surge of people decided it was time to change Oregon's gun laws and headed out with clipboards to gather the more than 150,000 signatures needed to put the measure before voters. We picked up 1,000 volunteers in 10 days, said Mark Knutson, the pastor of Augustana Lutheran Church in Portland and the chair of Lift Every Voice Oregon, a tiny nonprofit created to get this measure on the ballot. And then more came, and then more came. Signs on walls and taped to chairs say things like, if you really care about gun violence, sign here. Signs taped to chairs for volunteer signature gatherers, hoping to get a measure to tighten Oregon's gun laws, lined the hallway in the basement of Augustana Lutheran Church in Northeast Portland in June 2022. What started as a tiny grassroots effort headquartered in this has gun owners worried. For example, anyone who currently owns larger capacity magazines or guns that carry more bullets and are allowed to keep them under the new rules, but many worry that they will have a hard time proving a purchase date. There you go. Keep your receipts. Remember that. Okay. Now, quote, it is impossible to prove when you actually acquired a magazine. Again, Kevin Starrett, the leader of the NOAA Measure 114 campaign in an August interview says, they keep driving they keep driving this thing home. They want you to prove a purchase date here, okay? You can't. What? Who keeps a receipt anymore? Well, okay, maybe if you buy one, maybe you can email you a copy of the receipt. If you can't print one out, I don't know. So basically, if you don't have a receipt, man, you're going to get in trouble. You just are. You're going to get hammered if you can't prove, proof of purchase. What are they going to do? Are they going to come take them? Are they going to lock you up? How's that going to work? I guess they're going to have to work out the kinks on that one also as well, right? I mean, it's crazy, right? So I don't know, man. I just don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up here. Lillian Montague just continues this, and though it was a scramble to transition from the scrappy start to a polished messaging apparatus, it could be a model other states decide to follow, said Sean Hallahan, the state legislative director of Giffords Law Center, which advocates for stricter gun laws and lent its expertise and fundraising might to yes on Measure 114 campaign. Quote, for the most part, when we deal with ballot initiatives, they're so unwieldy, so costly that we really do rather work for a legislature, Hallahan said. But voters brought Measure 114 to the ballot. In other words, he's saying that the people wanted this. I tend to disagree. You probably had a large percentage of the people, like I said before, that drank the Kool-Aid, they bought into the narrative, and they figure, hey, yeah, why not? Not realizing that the criminal element is not going to be affected. Okay, it's only law-abiding citizens. Hallahan said he saw examples of voters caring more about stopping gun violence than about party lines this election, even in states like Oregon and Michigan, where gun rights are a dearly held value. I think this does give us some hope, he said. Gun violence was top of mind for voters across the state. He hopes the results are a message to Republican leaders that they should think twice about what legislation they're willing to get behind. Oregon political consultant John Horvick with DHM Research said the key when crafting a ballot measure is to get as much in there as you can without making it too hard to vote yes. A thin margin of victory, he said, means you didn't leave anything on the table. Quote, if you're an advocate for gun control, you wouldn't want to pass something with 65%, he explained, because maybe there was more control you can get. Judging by the final tally, there was probably no stricter measure that could have passed. Just enough people said yes, and nearly as many said no. But while opinions on guns in Oregon are still sharply split, often on regional lines, the grassroots energy came from all over the state, Pastor Knutson said. Quote, this is not a victory over anybody, Knutson said. We honor those who oppose this. They're invited to. Work with us to make this one the best, equitable laws for public safety ever. Keyword equitable. And while not in direct response to the liberal pastor from Portland, Don Hefner, the hunter from Salem, indicated he was ready for that work. Quote, the measure has a lot of flaws, he said. I know there will be some people that don't want to fix it. They just want to kill it. And I respect that. But at the same time, if you have to live with it, you might as well try to fix it if it's possible. He is conforming. He is being compliant. He is compromising. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me on this. Take it from experience. When you settle for and when you compromise with the system, socialistic, communistic, when you compromise with the system, you lose. And you're gonna lose. And this is exactly what I just read. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not in favor of it, but if we must have it, then I sure hope they can work the kinks out and make it work. Yeah, but not in your favor. It will be against you. This is where we are. Done. Measure 114. Leave comments down below. Tell me what you thought. Okay. Coming soon to an area near you. Watch for it. Be open to it. Okay. The Second Amendment is under attack, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And it's happening right before our eyes, and no one's doing anything about it. So what can you do? You may ask yourself, what can I do? Get supplied, get strapped, get armed, get ready. Because if it happens to come to your area where you live, and you're not prepared and you're not ready and you have absolutely nothing, it's going to get a lot harder for you. It just is. Okay. It really, really just is. Um, this is sad. It's sad that, this country is going in this direction. It's sad that our Second Amendment rights, you know, are being trampled upon the way that they are, because it's unconstitutional. I know that the Supreme Court is fighting, and they're fighting very, very hard, and they are rejecting a lot of things that, especially having to do with the ATF. They're rejecting a lot of stuff that they're trying to enforce that legally they can't, according to SCOTUS, right? And they're going back and forth. There are positive things that are happening. Again, not being reported on or talked about because you don't need to know about those things. And that's the one thing that, if anything really, really enrages me, it's that. It's the suppression of speech. I mean, it was our First Amendment, okay? Freedom of speech, right? And why was it the first one? Well, can you imagine if you can't speak, nothing else matters, right? Who's going to hear you? Who's going to listen if nothing is being said? I don't know. It's important, right? So you got to have the freedom to be able to speak freely, truthfully, okay? And then you got to defend yourself, the Second Amendment, okay, against a tyrannical government, a tyrannical group of people, okay? People that want to go ahead and cause you physical harm. They want to come and steal your property, anybody for that matter. Doesn't just have to be government. I mean, it could be anyone, okay? But you need to have them in defense of that, not in offense, okay? In defense. That's the key. That is the key. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed Freedom Friday 2A News. It's plug time, right? My favorite. As you guys know, there are some documentary videos that I had going out there. You're not going to find them here. They are now over on the Rumble platform. Okay. Make sure that you go over there and you check them out. Make sure you check out the Discord server. And most of all, make sure that you read the ticker there on the bottom, like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out greatly here. Your support's greatly appreciated. We have a Discord server, like I said. We got Patreon up and going right now. If you feel inclined to contribute, that would be great. Would love to have your support. There's Buy Me a Coffee also as well, and you can find all of the links in the lower right-hand corner of the artwork up on top there. And like I said, we're here for the long haul. We're here to, continue to bring you Freedom Friday 2A News and keep you up to date on everything that is going on. All right. And everything that is permissible to speak about. And with that, my friends, keep your powder dry, keep your head on a swivel, and we will catch you on the next one. God bless.